Welcome, everyone, to Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, and I'm joined by David Francisco. We're back for another installment of our weekly recaps of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is dropped every single Friday on Disney+. Last time we talked about Episode 3, Power Broker, and today we're discussing the fourth episode titled The Whole World is Watching. What an appropriate title for all the things that seemingly happen here. So yeah, that's our show today, as well as how the episode is being talked about as far as the conversations being had. All of that here on Red Spotlight number 314. David, let's go to you first. How are you doing this week?
Good.
Yeah? Well, this is certainly an episode, wasn't it? So, a lot of things to get into. And yeah, but before we start off, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, David, you and I on WandaVision were talking about, I think it was John Campea was talking about how, I think this was in response to the Darkhold being revealed, right? Or being mentioned, I think, in between. Mm-hmm. Either the week that it was revealed or mentioned on WandaVision. And Campea had used that as evidence, definitive evidence that proved, as far as, its presence in those shows, that the other Darkholds being used, namely Shield's Darkhold, that proved that the show not only wasn't canon. Again, it's not that anyone really cares. I mean, we don't care, but again, a lot of people seem to want to bring this up and, say it. But the point of it was, at least for why it was brought up and how he was saying is, why would the Disney Plus shows, for example, why would they go out of their way to acknowledge something that in his eyes was a complete failure? I think the words were not so successful. To which I think you and I had some strong words to that, but that was, I believe, in one of the last weeks that we discussed WandaVision. So if you want to hear that little snippet, it's in the catalog there somewhere. But we have, I think, been doing a pretty good job of debunking a lot of those points, in particular because we had mentioned, I think it was either again last week or the week beforehand, that it was consistently in the top 10 of Disney Plus worldwide, which it is available pretty much everywhere except the US now, because they have some licensing deals with Netflix, which I don't believe expire until the end of the year. So it still is going to be quite some time until the show makes its Disney Plus debut. But why I bring all of this up is because, well, it's not just those numbers. It turns out, and some people actually shared this online, which is how it got, it made its way back to me on Twitter, which I also shared with you, David, is it apparently made its debut in France in March, I believe, which was obviously last month. And it was such a big deal that the show was actually featured prominently in an advertisement for Disney Plus. In fact, it was featured side by side with WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and other big shows that they were premiering, like Mighty Ducks. So it's curious to me how the not so successful show managed to find its way standing side by side with the likes of, the shows that everyone is watching and talking about, that Disney themselves are like, you know what, this is kind of a big deal, and we kind of see its value and worth, that we're going to feature this show quite prominently on our advertisement. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me that, the more removed we got from those comments, the more kind of nonsensical they appear, right?
Yeah, and it almost seemed like they were showing S.H.I.E.L.D. more than the other shows, I think. I don't know. It's been a while. But
the first shot of it was with S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's also the advantage with a show like S.H.I.E.L.D. is It's a binge-worthy show in the sense of how many episodes they have. Like, we're talking about 7 seasons of television. I think it was 136 episodes. So that's kind of like the sweet spot for a show you want to binge. And I would imagine that's kind of what is giving the show such an advantage in terms of how popular it is, around the world. It has a lot of replay value, I feel. Again, you and I have seen the episodes again and again and again. So it's like... we're preaching to the choir here, but it seems like it's having some kind of an impact there. So, yeah, I noticed some fans were excited to see some. What was her name? Some recognition. But I'm thinking of Kate Blanchett's Hela in Thor Ragnarok, where she's having that scene when she's on the throne with Carl Urban's character Skurg. Is that what his name? Skurg. I don't.
Something like
Scourge?
that.
Scourge, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah. And she's asking him for what it is that he actually wants. And then she was like, recognition. So I think of that little funny line. And it's nice to see something like this be recognized, especially since, as you and I discussed, it's not treated very kindly here in the States, is it? It's very much treated like a punching bag, so... I was very happy to see one particular transition that that some fans also took note of was how they had they transitioned from Coulson and May holding hands to Vision and Wanda holding hands. So it's how sleek it was, and I don't know, it just made me feel good. That's all I wanted to say about that,
Yeah, no, I noticed that too, and I was kind of like, oh, that's cool. Even I was like, dang, that's cool transition right there.
Yeah. So you see, there are people out there, not in the US, that seem to love this show. One other thing, speaking of headlines, before we get into the review itself. So Inverse is this outlet that, was actually one of the outlets that we included in those list of headlines that were kind of insulting to S.H.I.E.L.D., right? I think if I'm not mistaken, Inverse had a headline that said WandaVision just completely made every other Marvel show irrelevant. Interestingly enough, they just had a headline in the last couple of days that says that WandaVision makes Falcon and the Winter Soldier worse. So that's a continuing piece of thought that people have been having, that you and I have been picking up on, at least what I've been including in these shows these last couple of weeks, is there is this subset of people, although very... a small group of people. I wouldn't say that this is widespread. I think this is a very small group of people who are, and that's fine. They're entitled to feel this way, but so it just so happens that some of these people are kind of big voices as far as how critics and people who cover the industry and everything, and they seem to have come to the conclusion that the show is it just pales in comparison to WandaVision. And then that's the game the media always seems to like to play. It's like, you're only as good as what you did recently, and that's what we're just going to compare it to. But as you've been saying, David, it is wholly unfair to compare these two shows.
Mm-hmm. Not just from its theme of it, but even... the one thing I wanted to point out, but they're saying WandaVision is better, but the only action scene in WandaVision that you see is in the final episode. And Falcon and Winter Soldier is doing way better in action scenes than WandaVision did.
Right.
So it's like, and that's the only thing that you can't compare the two of.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like, I mean, sure, we can always compare what we like and what we don't like about it, but it's like, if you're going to compare the series as a whole, it's not an apples to apples comparison. It's kind of what you're saying there. Like, if you want to pick apart certain things, sure, Falcon and Winter Soldier has superior action, But it better damn have superior action, because action really wasn't on WandaVision's mind. It was just something that they did at the last minute because it's like, oh, well, we're a superhero show and like we should have some kind of action. And while entertaining, if action's what you care about, every episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier has kind of over-delivered. Whether it comes to the opening sequence with the Falcon in the first episode, or Sharon Carter last week single-handedly just taking down an entire gang, it seemed like, or this week with the Dora Milaje, it's like, there's really no comparison there. But again, this is the kind of show where the action is very much not only warranted, but very much front and center alongside other things. With WandaVision, it really wasn't a factor until it needed to be. But again, you and I think we did like 2 episodes why we had issues overall with the set piece. Yeah, it was enjoyable, but there were things I think that could have made it better.
Yeah.
But then there were budgetary restraints because those were super powered individuals. And while we do feature super soldiers in this series, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're not wizards, they're not witches. We don't need all of the special effects to even have that out there. So it becomes a lot more manageable from a budgetary standpoint. So yeah, we can compare all day, all long, but I think overall it's, I don't know. It is surprising, though, because you and I expected the opposite to be true in terms of how certain people are framing it. I would have expected at this point to have seen a subset of people say and declare proudly that Falcon and Winter Soldier is so much better than WandaVision, or like Falcon and Winter Soldier has demolished or destroyed or kicked Wanda's ass. And it's like, I expected that. I kind of expected that to be what we would be seeing in these kind of takes. And yet the opposite has proven true. And I'm not only do I think, of course, it's unfair because I think the quality of this show is pretty stellar, but it also is unexpected because Falcon and Winter Soldier is pretty much like what, I don't know, you would expect from Marvel. So that's why we kind of had these concerns that this show would be used as kind of a weapon of sorts to kind of beat down some of the other experimental projects that Marvel does, like WandaVision. So I'm happy that's not happening, but it is kind of, we'll say, bewildering just to see some people's blasé attitude toward the show. I've read some responses online by some people who, whose jobs it is to, watch and write for television. And normally people who I actually, whose takes I take into high consideration, that say that, the show's not doing it for me. It really isn't like, it's not captivating me the same way that WandaVision is, or it feels like every episode's a different pilot. I think we talked about one take that had last week, one person I even saw that said that they fell asleep during the first episode. And even the first episode, when we were talking about it, there was some big reviews that were saying that it was pretending to actually say something about America. I'm not sure that's aged very well. So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
But those are only just a couple of people who said that. When we get to the end of the review, I have a whole bunch of other takes, a bunch of spoiler takes in regards to this week's episode that I want to go over from a variety of different sources, from a variety of different people, obviously. But of course, that would entail having discuss the episode, which let's get into it now. So, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 4, titled "The Whole World Is Watching." This is the part where we give our spoiler-free initial impressions, and then David is going to guide us through, the episode as it happened in sequence. So, I'll go ahead and start off by saying, wow, wow. This episode I struggle to where to actually begin, in terms of how I feel about it. Let's see if I can organize it clearly. I love this episode. That to say, of course, that I've really liked just about every episode, but this one I think had something special in it for a variety of different reasons. But how the episode opens and then also how it closes, it kind of looks like it came a little full circle there in terms of, the two emotions that we're having at the episode's opening and the episode's closing. But the way this leaves you, man, and I thought it was just me, but when I saw that Alexis, when she watched it that same night, I saw her response in the chat and I was like, yep, that's exactly how I felt. I was left shaken at the end of this episode, and I really wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting to feel that way. That isn't to say that I didn't expect certain characters' decisions and actions. I think that could have been seen coming a mile away, but the fact that certain images were shown with such visceral brutality is shocking. It's also shocking to see the weapon used in a feature like that. It kind of it not only does it make you feel uncomfortable, it just makes you feel uneasy. An added layer of uneasiness, to what's already going on. And I was speechless. I was just speechless. I that episode ended and I'm like, man, I watched this like at 12 at night and I'm like, well, fuck, what do I do now? I can't go to bed like this. But I think it was an excellent showcase for the characters. I continue to love Zemo. I think Zemo is turning into a villain you kind of hope to see more of, and not just here, because he's just becoming so much fun. Daniel Bruhl especially plays that character very well. But there is an interesting degree here, a separation between certain characters, Zemo, Walker, and Carly Morgenthau, and all three of these characters are really varying degrees of bad in my view, although, and like you said, David, we're not really sure. I think what the show is going for, it's like, all right, so to really gray and muddy the waters as much as possible between, absolute right and absolute wrong, between black and white. And well, actually, you can actually include Sharon, depending on how you feel she is involved in this as much as she can be. But so many of these characters are seemingly motivated by the right reasons, and yet have very different tactics and points of view. So, and I think that's really fascinating when they all really contrast with Sam. I really enjoyed Sam Wilson this week, and I think you are kind of being given a showcase for why, in just about every way imaginable, Steve Rogers was 1,000% correct about him. 1,000% correct. And yeah, we got some great moments with Bucky, and John Walker. John Walker. Wow, where do you start with that one? I like to say that I was right from the very beginning.
I think we all knew.
I think we all knew what was going to happen with that, but I will say that Wyatt Russell, the actor who plays the character, is doing an amazing job, because every single time that he shows up on screen, I literally cannot stand his presence. I cannot stand his voice. He is honestly aggravating every time he is on screen. And of course, that is the intent of the performance, isn't it? You know? Mm-hmm. So congratulations, Mr. Russell, but I can't stand you. I think it's the best episode so far of the series. Yeah, I watched it 3 times, and every time it just got better. You know, not just from, you know, hitting you in the feels, but you can kind of see now that all of the storylines and all of the key players are kind of converging in one. That it was written very well. And of course, the action sequences continue to be not just impressive, but in some instances hilarious, depending on which side you were on. And I'm referring to the Dora Milaje sequence, which I was cheering when I was watching all of that go down. Yeah, I think they're gonna do just fine with 6 episodes. I know that I had been concerned in previous weeks that maybe that may not have been enough, but I don't know. I seemingly, we're basically almost at the end of this already. So in terms of how this was handled, yeah, big episode, David.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Sure.
What do you think? Your initial impressions?
No, I mean, I agree with everything you said. This was a really great episode for both Bucky and Sam. Sam specifically because like you said, he was a standout, and like we finally get to see like, okay, you're Captain America for sure because of this. But also what I found kind of interesting is that before you got to the like very end of the episode, at one point the show kind of tells you like, oh, okay, there's no good guys or bad guys in this. They're like, there's just people. Yeah, they're doing good things for in the wrong way, but you know, it's just it. You can have a conversation about it. That's really interesting to think about.
Yeah,
and again, action. It's always great. You got some funny moments, and then Zemo. I hope that's not the end of his character. I doubt it.
I didn't get that impression. I think we'll see him
again. But yeah, again, he's great too. I like that you kind of see how important he is in this mission, because before, like, you needed him. Yeah, he knew exactly what you needed to know, like to like move the plot along and everything. But this one's like, oh, okay, cool. This is how he always works. This is how he's gotten by a lot. He's very smart villain.
Well, to quote Sam in this episode, you know, he was far more useful to them than Walker was in this episode.
Yeah, that's funny.
Walker was kind of a nuisance.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Especially that one part. We'll get to it. But
every part he was involved in.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, obviously the ending is the big standout of the episode, where that's where you see like, okay, there's a villain here. There's someone you got to stop now. And yeah, a great episode.
Yeah, man. Got me pumped. I loved it so much. All right, so those are our initial impressions of The Whole World is Watching, the 4th episode of Falcon the Winter Soldier. So, David, take us now as the episode happened in sequence. I think we start off in Wakanda this week. I wonder if that surprised you.
Yeah. It was a boring scene. We can skip it. I was kidding.
Oh my God. You almost had me.
Oh, really?
You almost, oh my God.
No, that scene, just, wow. Again, it was completely by surprise. I didn't think we were going to get anything from his time in Wakanda. But basically, the episode starts off with Bucky in Wakanda, and you see... what is her name? Ayo. Ayo. Okay.
So it's spelled Ayo, but the way that Bucky says her name is Ayo. Ayo, whichever way. For just make sure people are aware. So Ayo has actually been in several MCU films. We first saw her in Civil War, and then we saw her again in Black Panther and Infinity War, I believe. And this is her first. And she is kind of the secondary most noteworthy Dora Milaje member, because of course the high one is the General Okoye, who is portrayed by Denai Guerrera. And Ayo's kind of been more or less on, in the background, but she technically did make her debut first, and that was in Civil War.
She had like a really standout moment in Civil War with the move. You will be moved.
Right, with Natasha. You're right, yeah.
Yeah, everyone loves that scene. It's great.
Yeah.
And I'm glad she was in this episode too, just to kind of see more lines. But yeah, they're in Wakanda, and Ayo is gonna test out the secret words to Bucky. And obviously he's scared and everything, but she promises him, like, hey, you're not gonna hurt anyone. Just let's go for it. And then as soon as she says the words, you see this like giant fear in Bucky trying to resist, or hoping that he won't get mind controlled and everything. And he just had this cool sequence of going back and forth with him, and then moments with him being the Winter Soldier. the Center Wolder.
Oh, you pulled a Peter. The Center Wolder.
Yeah.
Okay.
And becoming the Winter Soldier. And I mean, it's just so sad, because like I feel like this is, because before it was in Civil War, they're saying the words, and it's just kind of like he's getting pissed off and everything. Like, that's all you're seeing. But with this one, though, like, again, you're seeing a giant fear in his face that he doesn't want this. He's trying so hard to resist it. And then once she finishes the last word, she just goes, "You're free." And like, I don't know, I guess just like a moment of disbelief with him. But like, she looks at her and she goes like, "You're free. You're free." And like, just a giant change in his face of relief like comes out of him, and he loses it. Oh my god, I cry every time on that scene, man.
It damn well brought me to tears as well.
Oh my god. And then it ends with just him smiling because he's free. And then we come back to the present. But I mean, what'd you think of that scene? Just,
it's it is without question one of the best scenes in anything Marvel. Anything Marvel, whether it be the MCU, all the other TV shows, or even some of the non-MCU stuff like the Spider-Mans or the X-Men's or everything. I think this is one of the best executed acting sequences I've seen in anything Marvel. I was so moved by it, as you perfectly set it up right there. Bucky is just scared about being used as a weapon again. He's had no voice, he's had no control his entire life, it seems like, at this point. And as Ayo was just saying the words, the fear kind of turns into a little bit of disbelief. And once, Ayo says twice, "You are free," it just, the overpouring of emotion from fear to disbelief to joy. Sebastian Stan, man, that has to be one of the best scenes I've seen all year. It got me. It got me real good. too. It's like, wow. And again, it's moments like that make this show worth it. Make any of these shows worth it. You know, it's moments like that we wished we would have gotten to see in the films. Although we understand for a variety of reasons, the real estate just wasn't available to touch on those things. But, you know, because that was a reality, it just makes these shows, I feel like more of a gift to us, because if they didn't exist, Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision, we might never have seen them go through these moments. You know, like a lot of people did criticize, and I think rightfully so. Okay, we left the Winter Soldier in Wakanda at the end of Civil War. We go to Infinity War and he's fine, everything's fixed, and that's it. There was a story there. Well, here it is. And it means a lot, I think, to just fans of these characters to be able to see them go through these moments, and especially when you have the talent, you know, in the form of Sebastian Stan there. And I just hope that people understand at the end of the day that when you and I talk about how really what doesn't matter, it doesn't really matter to us, all of the Easter eggs or the in-continuity references or the world building. If people seemingly are confused that that's just not what you and I look for, this scene right here in the beginning of this episode is the best possible representation for what you and I, David, especially crave out of stories like these, out of shows like these. This is what we're here for.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we would have ever gotten this scene in the movie before. I mean, I don't even know if we would have gotten it like in a Winter Soldier movie specifically or anything like that, or a Bucky Barnes movie. I don't know what you title it, but but yeah, incredible standout.
And another thing about this Wakanda thing, which is a different thing though, but a funny thing too. I knew I wasn't the only one thinking this. I mean, so the episode opened, and off in the distance, you see the city of Wakanda and everything. And I laughed as the camera was like pulling back, and we're going off to the woods because, of course, we don't have the money to actually go to Wakanda. We do. I mean, and you know what? In the spirit of fairness, I have to say, look. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. Like, you made the scene work regardless of... It didn't need to take in the city. It actually works better that it took out in the middle of the woods, you know, from a writing standpoint. But we also understand that from a budgetary standpoint, you really couldn't go to the heart of Wakanda. But I want to say, in the spirit of fairness, let me just say, as someone who absolutely admits, and David, count me in, you're in this as well, that while S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't have the best budget, and it didn't have the effects that, you know, these shows have in terms of how great they look. They looked great in their own right, but obviously there's a step up here in terms of locations. This is something Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would have done. And don't pretend for a second that you wouldn't have complained if they did it. This is exactly, if for whatever reason, if Wakanda had been featured, it would have been off in the distance, enough for you to say bye to it, and then the real action would have happened out in the middle of the woods. Because this is television, folks. This is just how it is sometimes. And I just wanted to put that out there because... If S.H.I.E.L.D. had done this, tell me, convince me otherwise, that there wouldn't be people out there laughing their ass off. That, of course, they didn't have the money to go there. Well, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the show that evidently can say they have the money and the ability to go there, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Money, people, TV, there you go. I just wanted to put that out there. And one, actually, before we move off this, there was actually some people that I saw, they weren't complaining, but they were just kind of noticing that a lot of the locations in this episode were seemingly serving a budgetary reason, because the locations for the most part in this episode were kind of relegated to buildings and hallways and corridors, warehouses. And I'll tell you this, I didn't even realize, oh, okay, sure, I guess you could make that statement.
Yeah.
But when I was watching the episode, I wasn't thinking, man, they're in another warehouse. They're really saving some bucks on this. No, I'm not. That's not going through my mind. I'm so invested in what's going on in front of me that's an afterthought. If it comes to wherever I realize it, oh, sure, okay, I guess. But like it didn't look cheap. It didn't look like they were like skimping out on something, you know? But I guess you could say it's true that for the most part that they took place in warehouses and corridors, and okay. And what's the
I don't know. I really don't know how to like defend it. Yeah, it's in places like that, but it's a very dialogue driven episode.
Sure.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not like really, and no, they could have skipped the action in this episode, and I would have been completely fine.
I agree.
So I don't know.
I completely agree. And again, in all fairness, again, David, as you and I are S.H.I.E.L.D. viewers, maybe we just got way too comfortable with the hallways that we're just used to. We're just used to like, oh, this is just the sets that we use. But I'm also of the mind, well, it's television. It's television. Like I understand, especially even for a show like this, you cannot have that opening Falcon sequence from episode 1 happen every single week. You just can't do that. You don't have the financial justification to throw that much money at a sequence every single week. So I just wanted to put that out there because I did see some people that were saying that, and I'm like, okay, didn't bother me one bit, but sure, if you want to point it out. So you got budget Wakanda people, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it is what it is. David, what happened next? So we get back to present day.
Yeah. So the beginning scene, it also establishes a little bit of relationship between Io and Bucky. So when you get back to present day, they're talking, and she's just like, "Why'd you let Zemo go? The fuck, dude?" It's like, after everything we did for you.
I know.
Yeah, but I mean, he explains it. They need his help and all that. And out of their friendship, I guess, she gives him 8 hours until he turns them to the Dora Milaje.
And it took a lot of her to say that, because this just wasn't a place that I had like registered, because Io is like such a background character. We don't really take her particular location into much consideration. But when she said, I think it wasn't really much of a revelation. We could have guessed, but she reminded us when she was talking to Bucky that she was the Dora Milaje member who was on guard to protect King T'Chaka when Zemo blew him up. You can definitely tell that Io took that personally and took that as a failing on her part to not keep her king alive. So you can infer that she really hates Zemo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And still that she's generous enough, and out of respect for the past that she shares with Bucky, the fact that she gave him 8 hours is pretty big of her.
Mm-hmm. But also just shows like there's no second chance in this. You know, it's like the 8 hours are up. But yeah. And so Bucky goes back to Sam and Zemo, and he's just like, door menagerie here, and Sam was just like, crap. And then Zima has just funny line of like, it's like, oh shoot, well, I mean, thanks for defending me a bit, I guess. And Sam was just like, fuck you, no, you killed that guy. It's like, you're gone once they get here. But what are they? Oh yeah, they find out that what's her name? The Flag Smasher girl,
Carly,
blew up that one place in the last episode, and 3 people died. I think that's what they said, and like 11 people injured.
Right.
And so now they're worried that like, okay, she's stepping up her game. We gotta like find her as soon as possible and everything. And then Zemo's straight up telling them like, yeah, I got what it takes to finish this, It's like, do you guys do? And basically just trying to convince them like, I mean, she's just going to get worse and worse from here on out, guys. Like, you guys got to finish her off. And that conversation that they were having, can you explain? I feel like you might be able to explain it more there.
Well, it very much poses questions to us in the audience about what we feel. I think, from a narrative standpoint, it makes Zemo a really much more interesting character because, he's kind of got a point there. It's like, do you guys, as in, Sam and Bucky, do you have it in you to eliminate her? Because I feel that she's not going to get any better. She's only going to get worse. And he actually, makes a pretty interesting case against the notion, not just of super soldiers, but people who have, I think he says, warped idealism or something like that, where they just, they believe they're in the right no matter what. And he ties that in with his whole notion against super soldiers. He refers to like the people who are with warped idealism. He calls out the Nazis. He calls out the Avengers. There was this funny line where Sam says, "Careful, those are our friends," and then Bucky clarifies, "The Avengers, not the Nazis." In that. And then Bucky throws around a pretty good comeback, like Steve was never corrupted by the super soldier serum. And then Zemo was like, yeah, touche. But he's the only one. It's the only one that's never been corrupted by it.
Yeah.
And so interesting points there. And then Sam is just, of course, just reluctant to do that. It very much, it shows you the difference that where Zemo is ready to kill her, and you see later on, he was ready to kill her. Sam is very much not, up for that option. I think he says at some point later on, not everything has to end in blood or something, or something to that variety. So, but it also, I don't know, it makes us ask questions, right? Like, so let me ask you, based on that conversation, based on what you saw, do you think Carly is someone who's worth saving? Do you think she could be talked down to? Or she's beyond the point of no return?
I mean, yeah, because the thing with Carly, though, is that she's not seeing any other options in her situation. That's the big problem. It's just, that's always a big thing with superheroes. It's like, no, there's always more options that you can choose. And she's not being able to see that. I don't think it's just that super soldier mentality that is causing her to like go in a straight line somewhere. Nah. So I do think there's a chance for her to change. And we almost see that at one point, but we'll get to that. So, yeah. And then with Zemo, though, I understand where he's coming from. Because, I mean, he's a soldier himself. He was living in a place where there was a certain ideology that just kind of very much clashed and almost destroyed his country, basically. I mean, completely destroyed his country.
It destroyed his country completely. What are you talking about?
So it's completely understandable why he thinks that way. It's just, man, again, this is a good thing about this episode. Like, you kind of get to have this conversation. But Yeah.
And yeah, overall, the show's doing a great job of having those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I believe they go out to go see where they can find, what was her name? Mama Donia?
Yeah, they decided to find him. Oh, yeah. So, Sam, he pieces together that Mama Donia is he's like the caregiver of, I don't know where they're at and everything. So because of her death, he thinks that chances are the whole community is going to have a funeral for her. Mm-hmm. So once he finds that place, once they find the location of the funeral, they'll be able to find Carly. That's like the working theory. And then I think,
and we see them go there, right?
No, not yet. It goes back to, we go to the next scene is with Carly, but there's this little moment though in where they're talking, where Zemo goes to like a cupboard and takes out like a bag of candy. He's like, Turkish delight.
Turkish delight, yeah.
And I've been seeing videos of people going like, those things are disgusting. What the heck does he have that? I've never had those before, but I guess.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, and there's also the other joke where he mentions Sam mentions his TT.
Yeah.
That was just funny.
His aunt.
Like, the fuck is that TT?
Well, Zemo said your TT would be proud.
Yeah. And so the next scene, it cuts to Carly, and it's basically her and her group listening to the news of what she's done.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of looking at her like, the fuck did you do? You know? And I think that's pretty much it for that scene. And then comes back to Sam, Bucky, and Zemo at a what's it called? Refugee camp, I guess.
It was won by the GRC, right?
Yeah.
They used to be there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's this interesting part of Zemo talking about how he's been to that place where they're at, and like it was very lively. I think he said like it was a beautiful place and everything, but it was in a time before he knew the politics of everything that's going on, and so it's just kind of like it's gone down over the years and everything. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting, but I think it also like a little hint of how he knows how it works, the whole place. Right. And so they decided to split up and just talk to anyone, see who knows about Mama Donia. But with Sam and Bucky, everyone that they go to, they're just like, they just get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like completely try to ignore them as politely as possible. But Sam bumps into someone who's a teacher, I guess. And he starts to explain to them like, "Hey, I'm just trying to help." Like, he's about to say like, "I'm the Falcon, I can help," you know that. But the guy's like, "I don't care." They don't take kindly to strangers and everything, and just they've always just been with each other. That community has always protected each other, their own. And he kind of explains to Sam their situation and how the GRC, I think they haven't sent them supplies in like months or something, even though half a year, even though they've been asking for it for who knows for that long. But yeah, it's just again clashing ideals and everything. Then it cuts to Zemo, and he starts singing this song, Baba Sheep or something like that. I don't know what's it called, but he goes up to these kids and he's throwing them the candy that he got from the earlier scene, and he convinces one of them to give them information about Mama Donia, and he keeps it a secret to himself for a bit. Again, this is a scene where I was talking about where it's like, okay, he's really is important for the team. Like he knows like just how everything works around where they're at, almost like in the the underground place and everything. So I really liked it, and again, it shows just kind of how much of an evil genius he is. Like he's able.
I mean, honestly, doesn't it? Like it was hilarious how Sam and Bucky were kind of flopping all over. Like they could get nowhere, and all it took was Zemo singing a song and a bag of candy, and he got exactly the information he needed. And of course, he made sure that, nobody else trusted them because he needed the leverage all to himself. Otherwise, he would be turned over to the Dora Milaje, But I assume that the intended feeling of him singing that song was creepy. Because it kind of
it really was like the whole time I was thinking like, how are you gonna like get the kids' attention by this? Like this, I would run away. What the fuck?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the candy's too good.
Yeah, seriously, don't take candy from strangers, kids.
Yeah, you'd think we'd be past this by now, but I guess we're not. But yeah. Interesting information with the GRC. It's just, again, seemingly at every turn, they just seem to be incompetent. Maybe not incompetent, or maybe also malicious, that they've not been able to live up to the promises. And again, this is kind of what's feeding Carly's movement. So we go back to the apartment, right?
Yep, they're back in the apartment. They say Sam and Bucky are like, well, that was a failure and everything. But yeah, like you said, Sam is noticing that what happened there kind of it's putting Carly's ideals. Oh my gosh, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
Carly's what?
Like going to that place, Sam is realizing more and more like why Carly and is the way she is. Like why she wants to fight for them and everything. And he has this really cool explanation of how the world was working, and during the 5 years that everyone was gone. He says that, people who were separated by barbed wire came to other countries to get jobs, to get new homes and everything. Like this wasn't a specific group coming together. No, it was the whole world coming together, trying to rebuild and everything. Thanos was right. Like,
oh my god! No, it's like you see that again. Also, just makes you like think. It's like, maybe does Carly have a point here? And then Sam kind of gets it immediately. Well, she kind of does have a point here, because look, I wasn't around to see it, but from what I understand, because of the loss of half of all life, countries and borders and flags weren't relevant any longer. What mattered was that the surviving humanity just survived, and they did that by coming together. That's a beautiful thing too, and it only happened because of a sense of common tragedy, shared tragedy, and I mean, of course, not everybody felt that way, because many people they lost loved ones, they lost so many close people, and but it is an interesting idea, right? Like you didn't get this reception or this perception at all from Endgame. Like the Avengers were all like sad and everything, but it turns out like there were some people who were happy that it happened. And then you and I were thinking a few episodes back, like, how could anybody possibly thought the world was better when like everybody was gone? And then when Sam puts it this way, it kind of makes you think, well, damn, because from Carly's perspective, and I guess I find the answer to this, since like refugees weren't much of a thing, like borders weren't much of a thing, people were welcomed anywhere because they needed help rebuilding. And so, for example, like Carly's people, they moved to a new place, a new country, a new part of the world. And the second that people come back, they were kicked out because they weren't the people who lived there in the first place. And then it weren't just them. More people were being basically deported and kicked out and back to where they came from. And it's like, of course, only Earth could take a miracle that everyone should be happy about and then fuck it up. Like, and again, it's like, I know this is not a critique of the movie. This is not a critique of the world, but this is just me this is not a serious critique, people. This is just a nitpick. I'm just like looking at the universe and saying like, gee, could no one have predicted this would happen the second everybody came back? It's just human nature. But yeah, you're right, though. I think Sam puts it together pretty well. And it also just shows you like, well, that's why Sam is Sam. That's why. Another reminder that he just gets it, you know? Mm-hmm. But then things get a little tense once Zemo reveals that he has some leverage. And Bucky ain't having any of it, is he?
And then he had this funny joke. When Bucky threatens him, Sam goes, it's like, ease up, don't engage. He's just gonna trick you and do this little head tilt thing. And Zemo's just like, and it's like he's putting his head straight and everything. I love Sam's comedy. Like, it's just these little tiny comments that he keeps making.
Yes,
the head tilt, the stare. But yeah. But they're getting, like, I guess, pissed off about him with that. And then it cuts to Sam talking to Agent Carter. Mm-hmm. Wanting to see if like there's any info that she can probably help us out. He's asking for another favor and everything, and she just casually mentions that she has satellites that she can get into somehow. It's just in.
Oh yeah, I got a couple of them lying around.
Like, what the hell? And I mean, this kind of like gets people thinking again. Like, is she the power broker? Like, she just happens to have satellites that she can go into and help them out.
I mean, I guess if she's not the power broker, I guess you could just explain it away as somebody who is a former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., a former agent of the CIA, maybe picked up a thing or two and knows how to get access to some satellites. If she isn't the power broker. If she is, well, there you go. And I have to say, though, and I think, and some people have mentioned it, in that discussion that Sam and Sharon have, she's the one at the end of that conversation that brings up, get Carly and bring her back because the power broker is going apeshit. Seemingly it seems that from that back and forth, Sharon is far more concerned with just getting Carly back because of the super soldier serum in her blood. Mm-hmm. And if that's where she's concerned of, I don't know, it seems like, I think there's a really good chance she could be the power broker.
Mm-hmm. Well, the big thing, though, someone pointed out is that if she's a power broker, why would she lead Sam and Bucky to her scientist that was making her more super soldier serums?
That's true. You could also make the counter argument that she did not expect Nagel to be just executed.
Well, Zemo is there, though, and
Zemo is there, but like I think there was a reasonable chance to expect that with Zemo being guarded by the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they wouldn't let him get a gun.
That's true. Okay.
And so, like, you know that they didn't go there with the intention of executing Nagel, so I think there is a plausibility there. And some were also noticing, if you go back to last week's episode, that she also kind of was a little bit flipping out. Of course, we didn't get to see much of it because the whole place exploded, but when she went back in and she realized, what did you do? And then the whole thing blew up. So there are some clues there.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. That's cool. Okay. She might be the power broker.
She might, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to...
Just a couple of satellites flying around.
I know.
That's some flex right there.
I guess. It cuts to Carly and her group again, and they're like at some cemetery, I guess. And you find out where she hid the serums at.
A couple of vials. Did you count how many there were? Because there weren't 20. There were, I think, a little less than that. Because Nagel said he made 20 of them. You could assume that of those 20, Carly and some of her friends took them. Mm-hmm. Are we under the impression, because some were saying otherwise, when I saw that, was under the impression that what she had left was all that was left. Do you think there are others out there that weren't in her batch? of other vials of super soldier serum.
I think that was all that was left.
That's what I thought too. But I noticed others were like saying otherwise, so I wanted to bring that up.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, they pick up the serums. I don't know what the heck they were gonna do with them, but she has a conversation with one of her teammates.
His name is, and his name is important because he'll come back up. Let me see here. Continue what you were saying.
Well.
Oh wait, sorry, I got it. Nico. Sorry, Nico is his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they have he brings up Captain America and how he used to look up to him when he was a kid.
Yeah.
But he sort of explains that he's an old hero. He was there during a time where everything was black and white. You knew exactly who to stop. You knew exactly who was evil. But as he got older, same way with Zemo, like they're starting seeing the politics of the world and that not everything is so black and white anymore. And then he finally, and so like the vision of Captain America was sort of fading away in his mind until Carly, where she knows exactly what she wants to do. She knows exactly what's right. He wants to follow that, basically. And yeah, I mean, it's a cool little conversation between the two. I think it's a far better conversation than that one. What was it, in episode 3? You know,
I don't even remember it.
Yeah, that's why. Like, I don't remember either. But I don't know. It's kind of cool seeing like just kind of building up, I guess, more of the friendship between all of them, and also reasoning as to why they follow her. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. It's also an interesting idea that he threw out there that, the heroes don't have the luxury of keeping their hands clean anymore.
Mm-hmm.
As a flaw of Rogers and other heroes out there, and I wonder how much of that is going to be true as the episodes unfold. But you're right, I agree with you.
Yeah. And then cuts back to the main three. And they bump into the U.S. Agent and Battlestar. He's just like, all right, you guys gotta tell us everything now. Like, we're working together. Too bad. But yeah, he wants U.S. Agent wants them to compromise and start working together. Tell him where Carly is, and they don't have a choice. He joins them. And they see a little girl, the one that was talking to Zemo in the refugee place. And they were able, and as they get the location, as they're walking there, U.S. Agent's like, okay, we gotta stop her right away. Let's just get in, get out, whatever. But Sam, the cool guy, Captain America, he's like, no, we gotta talk to her. We gotta talk her down. She just blew up a bunch of people. She just lost someone important to her. She's in a vulnerable place, so we can talk to her. It's fine. And I love his reasoning is that he used to counsel soldiers and everything. So this is a perfect place for him to do it. He knows this is the moment for her because this is exactly what he's done before. But U.S. Agent, and he makes a cool point too. It's like, yeah, I'm a soldier too. Like, this is also like, this could also be a bad time to talk to her and everything. But luckily, Battlestar, he wants to do this peacefully, and Sam gets his chance. I think that was it for that scene. But they get to the funeral, and U.S. Agent handcuffs Zemo to some, I don't know what the heck it is, but he handcuffs him and tells Sam that he's got 10 minutes to talk to her. And they're having the funeral. Carly's making a little speech there. Actually, I honestly can't remember what she was saying. What did she say? I mean, yeah, it's just basically the wish Mama Jonia meant to her.
Right.
and how she's basically the one that taught her about community and keeping everyone that she loves safe and everything. But the funeral ends, and her and Sam get to talking, and this is a really interesting scene. I don't know if you want to get into it first, or
you can go. Let's go ahead and get
okay. But basically, the first thing he kind of mentions is that, you know, she's taking things a bit too far, and he kind of doesn't want this to lead into some war. But she's like, war's already here and everything.
Yeah.
But he's just trying to talk her down, like, hey, I'm with you in your ideals. Like, I agree that we should bring this world together again as it was in 5 years.
I agree with your fight.
I agree with your fight. It's just, you can't go about it the way that you did. And he mentions the fact that Zemo called her a supremacist. And she's just like, the fuck? It's like, what the fuck is your friend talking about? Like, I'm going against that. I'm trying to, like, tear down people who have, like, that kind of ideal. She slipped up at one point in going that, it's like, oh, like, why'd you hurt those people then? And she's like, oh, they're just in my way and everything. And she's like, wait, no, I didn't mean it like that. I meant, like, you know what I mean?
She said specifically, she said, I'd kill them again if I had to.
Yeah.
And then she caught herself like, wait, did I just say that? Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, dummy. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just a really cool scene of two people with not different ideals, but like going about it in different ways.
Yeah, it's very different approaches.
Mm-hmm, different approaches, just trying to come to some kind of understanding between the two of them. And then it cuts to John Walker, and he's staring at the shield. You can tell that, you know, I think this is like the moment that the Captain America thing is trying to get to him. Like, he just wants this thing to end, get himself a win, I guess you can say. And he's just like, fuck it, we're going in. Bucky tries to stop him, but I don't know. I guess he just convinces him because it's his teammate, you know. It's like, what if he gets hurt? Just trying to use some kind of fear on him to to get him in.
Mm-hmm.
One part of the conversation that I skipped with Sam and Carly is that I can't remember what they were saying exactly, but, you know, basically Sam, he's being overly optimistic, and Carly points that out, and it's like, are you either really dumb or overly optimistic? I think that's what she says or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he's just like,
and then, can I be a bit of both? And she's like, no.
But, you know, being a bit of both, again, that's Captain America.
Literally, yeah. And what's not Captain America is also pretty near there too. No, that was a really great. No, were you finished?
Well, yeah, you can give your thoughts.
I was going to say that, you know, that was a pretty fascinating conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, earlier I think Sam had brought up that he had background in counseling, and that's an aspect to his character that, again, we never really revisited after he was initially introduced in the film that he was introduced in. But it definitely showed here how that definitely helped in this, and that he kind of, I mean, just a considerable great job to Sam. He just, you know, appeared to Carly not so much as a adversary, but as an ally. And he was just really easy to talk to. And that's kind of what you need, right? You kind of need that. And honestly, and in terms of how it was going, if they weren't interrupted, they probably would have come to some kind of an understanding. At least that's how it seemed as it was going, you know, in that direction. But it was not meant to be, however, because all the while they had that jackass around the neighborhood, pacing back and forth, needing to prove himself and his big name, and always having to have the last word on everything. He was looking at the shield, and he couldn't wait 10 minutes, obviously. And he broke the terms of agreement that he had with Sam just then and there, as if it meant nothing. And then because of how infuriated he was and how impatient he was, ultimately because he felt, again, useless, which he should have gotten used to, because he'll only feel more useless as the episode goes on, because he is useless. He then tries to get Bucky, I don't know, into some kind of a scenario where he's gonna let him go and everything. And we're not really shown what happened exactly. I'm going to assume he was able to convince Bucky to step aside, because I don't see how he would have gotten through. Realistically, it's the Winter Soldier. Hello. Mm-hmm. And that kind of makes me a little bit like, come on, Bucky, why the fuck did you listen to him? You know he's crazy. You said it yourself. Why did you let him walk past you? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, what ended up happening, the minute he... just like a fucking asshole. He just walks in there like, Carly Morgenthau, you're under arrest. Like, bitch, do you not see we're talking here? Do you not understand? Are you that idiotic that you don't see that there's about to be some kind of a peaceful resolution here? And no, he doesn't care. He just walks in. He starts off saying shit like, you're under arrest. And then Carly rightfully feels betrayed because, like, what? I thought we were getting at something here. And now you have this asshole about to arrest me? What? Like... this was a trap, basically, and everything you said to me just now is worth shit, which is what Walker did. That's all Walker accomplished. Literally. And then, of course, as useless as he is, she gets away. Mm-hmm. So he couldn't even do that right. And then on top of all of that, in the confusion, as everybody is just scrambling like rats, Carly ends up coming across Zemo. And holy shit. I thought he was about to kill her. I mean, gun her down right then and there. He was going for the kill. Seriously. And she was like, what the fuck? Where did he come from and everything?
Yeah.
That was great. I mean, it was great to see because, like, what? That was a great moment. I was so surprised that actually happened, but it was also kind of scary, too, because Zemo was literally about to kill her. So, yeah, it was just... Walker is useless in every way imaginable, and he only just gets in the way, and then this is what happened, and since we're on that scene, and then Zemo just seems more virtuous than Walker, because at least Zemo follows through on what he believes in. Mm-hmm. And at first you wonder when he's picking up those vials, because he notices the vials are on the floor that Carly had. He pieces together what those are, and maybe for half a second you think, is he going to take it? Mm-hmm. He smashes it, and then he proceeds to destroy all of it, because, of course, it's just that's consistent with his character. It's like he doesn't feel that super soldier should exist, and of course that also includes him. So that's an interesting perspective. And if Zemo wasn't so preoccupied with smashing those vials, Carly maybe wouldn't have gotten away, and that's saying something. And then he ends up getting knocked out by the shield, which it still irks me to see that shield being used by him. What is it?
No, it was funny that the way he got knocked out.
Yeah,
because I was like, oh shit, like he could have torn his head off or something, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And then the next scene, he has like a towel on his head because he got a headache, I guess. It's funny.
No, I bet that would be painful. It looks pretty painful. And then of course Walker walks in, and what do we see? Oh, that's right. There's one vial left. And in that moment, as he picks it up, I began to scream internally as loud as I could. No, you're not. No, because this isn't good. This isn't good. And fuck you and everything. I hate you so much. That's kind of what I was saying internally. So, yeah, that's where we are. you want to give your thoughts on this, and then you can move on with what happens next?
No, I mean, yeah, like like what you brought up with Zemo, where he was straight up being a killing machine and everything, but also I like the part where he gets the serum and just straight up destroys it. Also, I like the way they shot it, where you see him like the bottom of his shoe basically crushing the vial and everything. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I think it's even though he's evil, it's kind of cool seeing that, like, you know, he stands by his morals and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. There was something else that happened, but I forgot. No, I don't know. Okay, well, anyway, it cuts to Carly. She got bandaged up and everything, and she realizes that she lost all the vials. And she gets another text from the power broker, basically threatening her again, like, you're dead again. But she comes up with a plan to try to get rid of both Sam and Captain America, and she decides to separate them. And I think the next thing... No, it's not next. Okay. Well, her plan is to separate them. At this point, we don't know how, but it cuts back to Sam and 3 of them. And Zemo asks him, like, hey, were you ever offered the serum? He's like, nah. Would you take it? No. And Zemo points out, it's like, okay, no hesitation. That's cool. I like it. But he tells him again, hey, we gotta stop her. Like, she's just gonna get worse here again, dude. But he tries to Sam, again, being the overly optimistic person. He's trying to tell him, like, hey, she can change. She can still change. I think she can. And not everything that has to resort to violence. That's one thing that he pointed out. That was cool. Then U.S. agent comes back and he's just like, all right, well, that failed, but we're still taking Zemo. It's just, and like I was saying before, Sam says, you know, hey, Zemo's been very helpful with this. You can't just take him in. Like, he's been more helpful than you. But, and then the Dora Milaje come in. And a bit of fear got on me because I was like, oh god, the Dora Milaje with the U.S. agent there. Of course it's going to end with the fight. Like, you just know it. But now the Dora Milaje are also saying, hey, we want Zemo. And U.S. agent, being, I guess, kind of a douche.
You mean being who he is?
Being who he is. It's like, okay, calm down, you guys. Okay,
It's like the Dora Milaje don't have jurisdiction here. And the best response of all time, the Dora Milaje have jurisdiction wherever the Dora Milaje happen themselves to be. I love that line.
And then he goes, look, I think we got off on a wrong foot. Hi, I'm Captain America. And he grabs him by the shoulder, and that's when all hell breaks loose. And they start.
What an idiot! God damn!
And they start fighting. And Sam and Bucky are just like on the side, like, yeah, this would happen. And Bucky's like, looking good, John. You're doing great. But Sam wants to stop the fight, and then the both of them butt in on the fight. And while that chaos is happening, Zemo just straight up like just takes a sip of a drink and just leaves. But yeah, Dora Milaje, they kicked ass on all 4 of them. And then this is a cool part though, where one of them throws a spear at John, and it somehow gets through one of the straps into the table, and it gets stuck. And so John is just like, the fuck? How?
He's caught. He can't use his shield because he can't get it out of it, and he's kind of just stuck. No, dude, that sequence. Oh my god. My night was made watching that happen in real time. I mean, nothing could have made me happier to have seen the Dora Milaje kicked fake Captain America's ass, because he fucking deserved it. And like the way that he was like, you know, carrying himself, like he thought this is going to be a piece of cake. And man, bitch boy had no idea what he was expecting. And he got his ass kicked. I don't know how many ways. To be fair, so did Sam and Bucky. Like they were no match whatsoever. And I don't know. It's really, I don't know, just cathartic to see Walker's ass being beat up like that. And it was more delicious because of how emasculating it was for him. Because, you know, this is somebody who for the last couple of episodes has been demanding respect. And just the way, like, he was so crushed. They weren't even super soldiers. That's right. They weren't.
Yeah.
So what does that say about you? So I loved it as somebody who hates that character. Loved that to happen. Hates it from like, you know, from a good writing standpoint. Not like I hate that. You know what I mean? Thing is, what made that hilarious, Zemo just I think I saw someone refer to it like, yeah, so Zemo just leaves and like they were so preoccupied with each other, he really didn't need to, as Sam says, pull an El Chapo. He could have just walked out the front door.
Yeah. But I still love the way he like left. It wasn't like him trying to sneak around or anything. Like, no, he was just like,
no, he just backs out of there and walks away.
It's like, I think this is my chance right here. All right, cool, bye guys.
Literally nobody was paying attention to him.
Nah, not at all. One cool part in the fight though, Bucky was fighting Io, and she does this like, I don't know, finger punch pressure point punching thing on him, and his arm just falls right off. He's just like, what the hell? It's like, since when? That was
hilarious.
Yeah, even Sam was just like, did you know they could do that? And he's like, no. And just he puts his arm back on and everything, so it's all fine.
Hey, they let him keep it. They also let him. They also let Walker keep the shield, and it's amazing how that Dora Milaje kicked the shield up and then put it on her arm. Like, man, she knows how to use this better than you. That was maybe the best scene ever. I loved it.
Yeah,
so much. And then, of course, it cap it all off with another one of Sam's one-liners. I can't believe he pulled an El Chapo.
That was funny. But yeah, well, like you mentioned at the end of that scene, John Walker is like, he's on his knees looking at the shield, and he's just like,
he's on his knees. That's right. He was on his. Oh god.
And he goes, they weren't even super soldiers, and like he got his ass kicked basically. But it cuts to him in Battlestar at some mall, or I don't know where they're at, but he starts talking to him about, yeah, they got their ass kicked and everything, and the concept of the super soldier came up, super soldier serum came up, and he tells him, it's like, hey, would you take it if you had the chance? And he's like, oh yeah. It's like, we gotta defend ourselves. I don't know what his defense was about it, but what I liked about the scene though is just how much he sort of confides in Battlestar, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there really isn't like you're the sidekick and everything. Like, no, he trusts his friend. He wants his advice on some things and everything. And I mean, you could also say though, he probably wants him around because Battlestar likes to bring him up, I guess, like whenever he's feeling down.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, even though we haven't seen them like in service, I've seen both of them like when they were battling or anything like that. He thinks he has good reasons to believe why he's a good Captain America. But they also had this cool conversation, though, of Battlestar bringing up, like, oh, you have 3 Medal of Honors and everything. But John is like, I mean, we got medals on the worst days of our lives, though. I mean,
3 reminders in the worst day of our lives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so
the conversation kind of ends with, I think Lamar actually justifies why he would take the serum as a means to save more lives. And think how many more lives you could have saved that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of like the final a nail in the coffin to what pushes John to actually take it. I think we don't see him take it. I think it's off screen where he actually takes the serum, but seemingly tells nobody about it. From what I can gather, not even Lamar realized that he had a vial of it. But no, Walker. Look, this is interesting with him. Like he seemingly is motivated by the right reasons there too. It's like you could say very much like he wants to be a good person. He's trying, but there's just something in him that isn't letting him actually be that. And I guess I want to say you can just chalk it up to ego. That's just getting in the way, really, in a lot of his attempts to be a good person. Because in that scene right there, like you know, part of you does feel for him. It's like, okay, this isn't just like a person that is like out of his way, going out of his way to be an asshole or a bad person. He wants the opposite, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just see that it's just not. I mean, he doesn't realize it yet, but you just know that he just doesn't have it in him because of how many mistakes he's already made. And where are we at now, David? Is this where Carly calls Sarah?
It is. But one thing I want to mention, though,
yes.
You said like there's something holding him back, and for me, like when you said that, my first thought was the thing that's holding him back is that he's trying to be a soldier. And one thing that I've been seeing around the internet a lot is that scene in Captain America. It's like at the end, that one scene in Captain America before he takes the serum. The scientist guy tells Steve, at the end of the day, I don't want you to be a good soldier, but a good man. And so that's the thing that's holding John back. You know, he mentions like he got the Medal of Honor reminders of one of the worst days of his life. But everyone around him keeps telling him like, but you followed procedure, you did what you had to do, and blah blah blah. It's like that's what a soldier does. Whereas with Steve, I mean, yes, you can argue that like, you know, he has a super soldier, he gets to make those kinds of decisions. Where with him, it's just like, no, it's either save everyone or you die trying. You know? So I don't know. But yeah, the next scene is Carly calls Sarah and basically threatens, or no, he tells her like, hey, I'm really trying not to kill your brother. Can you convince me? But one bit of a conversation that was really interesting is that Carly says, oh, your brother's working with the new Captain America. And Sarah's kind of like, no, he isn't. I can assure you, like, my brother will never work for that guy or anything. Oh, I forgot. Okay, no. She says, your brother is working for your Captain America. And Sarah goes, I never chose him. And she mentions like, and when she tells Carly like he's never gonna work for him, Carly's kind of like, it's like, are you okay with? You're okay with that? You're okay with him kind of like betraying him or anything? Like you're okay with betraying the new Captain America? And it's like, he was chosen by a country who never cared about me, so yeah. I don't care about their
the line was mascot. America doesn't care about my world. Why should I care for its mascot?
Mm-hmm. So that's very intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carly's kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna give you some coordinates, send it to your brother, or else I'll meet you by the docks. And we're basically giving her, telling her address and threatening her sons. So that's fucked up. But again, it's another interesting conversation.
Carly is like really towing the line in a lot of these moments. Like, you know, I think you're sure that you feel about her in one way, and then in another scene you're kind of like taken back. But then with this, like, okay, but you're threatening their family, and I don't know if she's being real or not, because then she says that, oh, she was never going to hurt them. But I don't know. It's like she's an idealist, but she's acting more and more like a terrorist with everything that she's doing, you know? So it's like, where do you kind of fall with that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I believe her, because like as soon as she hangs up the phone, there's a bit of relief with her, like almost like, oh god, that was intense. Like I mean, that's what I saw. I don't know. Good, but again, though, it's like she's in a situation where she thinks she doesn't really have much of a choice. She has 4 people coming after her who, I mean, super serum or not, they can take her, and it's a intense situation with her. So Sarah calls Sam, she tells him the situation and everything, and he just tells her to get out and find somewhere safe. So that's where Sam gets mad, and he confronts Carly, and he's just like, "You're threatening my family now? The fuck?" But they're having a little conversation, and it's all really just a distraction, so that a U.S. agent goes somewhere else and gets in a trap, basically. But luckily, since we know about the satellites, Agent Carter tells him, like, hey, the new cap is somewhere, it's over here. I think you gotta help him or something. I can't remember what she said. But they realize what the situation was, and they get out. Like, they got out of there and head towards the new Captain America. And then, I mean, right here, really, it just gets all super intense and actiony again. And so the whole time, really, in this fight, you're kind of wondering if John ever took the serum or anything. And the big hint, I wasn't sure about it at first, but the big hint was him throwing the shield, and it gets like stuck to a wall and everything. But like when I first saw it, though, I was kind of like, wait, was that John or was that the other guy? Like, did he hit it out of his hand or something and everything?
I feel like that was like the final the final confirmation was when he was like, I think he like bent a bar in half, but no, that throwing the shield like that, I think was the first big indication. I actually want to say that I became suspicious when he and Lamar first entered the building, and something seemed off about him. He was breathing heavily, like he wasn't sure. I don't know what happened. Do you remember that? He was just not being even his usual crazy self. So there was something. I don't know if I was going to say the vaccine. I don't know if the serum was messing with him in terms of like maybe he shouldn't have taken it that soon. But no, I think automatically when we saw him, I was like, yeah, he took it because he's experiencing some side effects, it seemed like, at least to me.
Yeah. I didn't notice that, but that's cool. So while he's fighting, John realizes that Battlestar is missing. I guess he got taken and everything. And then Sam shows up, and that's where you see the scene where John like bends it was a pipe that he bends it.
Oh yeah.
And that Flag Smasher guy was just like, oh shit, and runs away.
Yeah, you should have run away.
But at one point during the fight, they all get into one room and everything are fighting. And Battlestar, he did get taken and everything, got knocked out, but he escapes, and then he manages to get into the big fight. And that's when Carly also shows up. And Battlestar goes up against her, and she kind of takes it a bit too far and pushes him to a pillar. And presumably, I mean, I like to think that he's still alive, but I think it's safe to bet that he died on impact.
I would make that bet as well, because when I saw that happen, I was kind of shocked and also horrified at how gruesome that was. I mean, we don't see blood there, but like it is pretty. I mean, like he gets knocked into a pillar, and I'm not even sure if it was the back of his head or it was just his back, but something broke. Mm-hmm. And the way he looks, it's like...
Yeah, the way he just drops, it is kind of...
yeah, like... Mm-hmm. I can't... I mean, you would want him to be alive, right? But I don't know. I think that... I don't know how you come back from that. That was pretty fucked up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Carly was going for the kill. Like you said, like she was about to kill Walker, and didn't work out that way. And then what happens, David?
Well, something I want to know. One part of the fight, one of the Flag Smashers grabs Bucky from behind, and Bucky decides to, like, I guess, fire his jet, I guess, to push the...
Oh, you mean Sam.
Sam, my bad. Sam decides to fire his jet and push the person back. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
One funny part, Sam and John were going to the room together, and then two Flag Smashers come down. They bring out knives, and John just says, "What's with all the knives?" It's like you're super soldiers. Why do you need knives?
That was actually pretty funny.
Okay, yeah, but that's just something that I noticed. It's funny. But John. But so when Battlestar gets knocked into the pillar, like everything just stops. You know, Sam and Bucky, they look at him, are like, "Oh shoot!" John runs up to Battlestar and he's trying to wake him up, but nothing's working. The Flag Smashers,
and everybody just leaves.
Yeah,
they just get the fuck out.
They book it. Like they just get out of there. But John, he just straight up jumps out of the window, sees one of them, and starts following him. And he knocks him to by like a statue or something. And it's the same guy who said that this guy looked up to Captain America growing up.
Yeah.
And but he gets knocked down, and John's like, "Where is she?" and everything. But the only thing that guy could say is just like, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me." And John just smashes the shield into the guy's chest. I'm guessing it's his chest or something. Some people were guessing that he decapitated him or something, but I'm like, that's too morbid even for this show. But yeah, basically the way Steve was hitting Tony at the end of the fight in Civil War, that's basically what John did, only he didn't stop. He kept doing it until, I mean, it's very obvious this guy's for sure dead. And
you think?
And one thing I noticed though is that so Sam and Bucky, they run in, see what happened, and Sam he's like just kind of disappointed with what happened, you know, kind of sad about it. But Bucky, he's a bit of both. Like he's sad at what happened, but he's also kind of like pissed off of John,
right?
But
Carly also sees what happens.
Carly sees what happened. A whole bunch of people. There's a crowd going on. They're filming it with their phones and everything.
And get the difference there. It's like Carly accidentally killed Lamar, even though she did have the intent to kill Walker. She accidentally killed Lamar. That isn't, of course, to excuse what she did, because she very much did kill Lamar, even though it wasn't intentional. Mm-hmm. But that does also differ from Walker, who basically revenge killed Nico.
Mm-hmm.
And I would actually liken it more to an execution, honestly, at that point, because he had him captured.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't any reason to kill him. He just killed him because he was angry.
Yeah,
that was the guy that liked Captain America, and he was killed by his shield. Go figure. Life comes at you fast. Huh?
But yeah, I mean, everything after that, it gets pretty intense. He's looking around. He notices everyone filming him and everything, and then it just cuts to a low angle of him in the shield covered in blood and everything. Damn. And yeah, it just ends right there. And I think that was the part where you were like, damn, you were shocked and everything. And this is I'm guessing that was the moment where my sister, I think she said like her hands were sweating and like her anxiety
she was shaking,
was building up and everything. But yeah, when I saw that, I was just like, we saw it coming.
No, we saw it coming. But it made it no less. I mean, I there's a whole debate that this sparked online, and don't worry, I'll get to that in a bit. But like, it was very sad to see that shield used in that way. But it was also just very enraging because Walker pretty much is representing what America has been known across the world. Not for what they like America to be, but what they actually are. And he just straight up killed someone. And I don't know, it just reminds you too much of real life, where we have people in positions of law enforcement on behalf of the United States that just seemingly have a knack for executing anyone that they so deem fit for it. And we see that happening all over the country. And it makes you so angry. It made me angry, made me kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? It's just, I'm at a loss of words, honestly. It was hard to watch that, but also shocking in the sense that you just didn't think that's something that this is the place that they were going to go, and actually show you the imagery of it. And I myself was also kind of wondering, all right, did he decapitate him, or like he just like basically broke into his chest, it seemed like. Either way, pretty fucking awful way to die. There was a lot of blood there too, but yeah, it was also kind of a moment of vindication, because like, yeah, that's exactly how it was always going to end. This is exactly what happens, because he was the wrong person. He was just the wrong person to be in that role, no matter how hard he tried. And it's kind of, you go back to what Erskine said. I think you were talking about this earlier before, and I had the line right here. This is why you were chosen. When he was talking to Steve, this is why you were chosen, because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power. But a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion. Whatever happens, stay who you are. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man. And I mean, that moment there, that is exactly everything Captain America is not with Walker, with what he did. Because there are moments, and you've seen them all online over the weekend, where Steve was in similar places, but he didn't kill. You mentioned Civil War. In Civil War, Tony was trying to kill Bucky in many ways because he wanted revenge for his parents, but at that point he also wanted to hurt Steve. And then when Steve was able to beat him, you go to that moment, and I remember being in that theater watching Civil War and myself kind of like, wait, what's going to happen here? And I was like so sucked in. And when Cap was using the shield, raising it for the last time, and he was about to stop Tony, like, and also the way that Tony put his arms up, like he wasn't sure what was about to happen there. And I remember having a discussion with Peter afterwards that, yeah, I mean, it came off as if we weren't really sure how that was going to end. Like, was Steve about to kill Tony? Of course he didn't, but he just beat him. He stopped him. And then he walked away. And, yeah, therein lie the differences of the two would-be Captain Americas. It was... This is a hard thing to see, but it's also an amazing moment of I was going to say execution, but that's kind of in poor taste. It was a great moment of filmmaking, I feel. How did you feel?
No, I mean, like I said, we saw this coming like a mile away. Him doing something that could just, it's not gonna be very Captain America-y.
No.
But I don't know. I'm just honestly the big thing that I was just thinking about is what was gonna happen after, and like you can already see it. They're gonna mention that, you know, oh, he killed the terrorist, though. It's fine. They're gonna say that he did this for his country and all that, but not many people are gonna care about the fact that the dude was on the ground, telling him, and just kind of almost begging for his life.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that kind of like, that's gonna get me mad in the next episode probably. Or I don't know. From the trailers that I've seen, it looks like they're probably not even gonna mention it. I don't know. Maybe at the end of the 6th episode.
I think Bucky and Sam are about to take that shield.
Yeah,
that's what I think is gonna happen. So, like, I'm sorry, John. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You're done. But yeah, I think we'll see things converge more. Overall, great episode, right?
Oh yeah, very good.
Let me get into some of the takes, and boy, were there some takes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this YouTuber who said some things on Twitter, and I want to say this off the top. I am going to read off some tweets he sent over, and they come off in a way, understanding, of course, that he was sarcastic, but I point these out because I don't feel, sarcastic or not, he perfectly captures, I think, how some people are reacting to that John Walker sequence, which I find kind of deplorable. But then he also gets into a different subset of a different issue that I think is kind of disappointing. So I'm referring to John Flickinger, the Flick Pick on YouTube. He's kind of known. He has a known community. He has appeared on channels such as Chris Tuckman, and he said over the weekend on Twitter, "Knockoff Cap has now become my favorite character in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a man willing to do what it takes. America thanks you for your service. He's the only interesting thing about the show for me. This episode's ending was great. I want more brutality." Those are the initial set of tweets. And then he said, "Just an update. Not sure if people missed the sarcasm or if some people are unsure this is a fictional TV series, but I'm aware New Cap has turned into a full-fledged villain in this episode. You either die a hero or you watch yourself become the villain character arc." And then goes on to further say, "I think people are interjecting real-world issues into a fictional comic book TV series." Couple of things with this. Yeah, sure, you're being sarcastic with this, but there has been an online discussion this past weekend with, there are people who absolutely take this at face value and feel like this is exactly how they felt, like that they were rooting for Walker and what he did, which is strange because that's not what they were going for, at least the people behind the camera, that people would have that reaction. And then in regards to what Flickinger was saying here about how he feels that people are interjecting real-world issues into a fictional comic book series, I'm just so done with this argument. Like, do you not know how to read subtext or any kind of text?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been talking about it every week. I mean, the issues that are kind of being alluded to on the show, like, just because it is a fictional TV series does not mean it doesn't have anything to say on what's happening with the world. And again, as we know film always reflects what's going on in our own realities, regardless if it takes place in a fictional setting or not. So that kind of made me, one person responded to him when he said that, and like, how can you call yourself a critic? He was being a bit harsh, but he said, how can you call yourself a critic and not be aware that comics at their core reflect real world issues, that their entire origin is the result of reflection about real world issues? Just to stay, David, Peter shared with us on the chat some excerpts of some Captain America comics, some old school Captain America comics, and some of the things that were in those, I think they call them comic book panels, were pretty surprising. I hadn't, of course, I've never read a comic book. I'm not sure how well versed you are with Captain America comics. But some of the things that were like, he said, Captain America at some point in these comics says, why can't my country stand for something right for a change? He even says, we're on the wrong side of every war. At one point in the comics, he says, how can they expect me to continue to wear the flag of a country that does such things? How do you not comprehend on any level the real world issues that are basically the DNA of this comic and then also of this show?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it boggles my mind. Someone else responded to Flickinger. He said, saying that nothing in your post suggested sarcasm. It instead suggested reverence for Walker. And then Flickinger responded, well, good thing it's a comic book series and not reality. Just doubling down. See, it's not so much the sarcasm that disappoints me in Flickinger. It's the sense that, because it's a comic book show, it doesn't talk about real issues.
Mm-hmm. But
that's not, I think, the case. And then another one, Joanna Robinson, the senior writer for Vanity Fair, said that someone just wrote in to tell us our podcast discussion of Falcon and the Winter Soldier had gotten too political. And I shared a gif of like Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie breaking down in laughter. I mean, I'm quite used to that critique. I've gotten it my entire podcasting career. But for this show? Really? Jenna Quigley responded with, imagine watching a scene where the symbol of America murders an unarmed man while dozens of people film it on their phones for the whole world to see and think this isn't a political show. David, anything from any of this so far?
I'm just tired of that argument. I mean,
by the way, I don't know if you thought this, but when Joanna Robinson tweeted about like someone wrote into her podcast that she had gotten too political, you and I had that happen to us one time. Remember on YouTube?
Oh yeah,
someone left a comment on the Captain Marvel audio commentary, and it's hilarious because we didn't mention any politics until the very end of the 2-hour like commentary.
Mm-hmm. No, but yeah, I'm tired of that argument because
I'm just so tired.
Because they go, don't put politics in our shows or comics or stories, whatever. But we keep pointing out, it's like, yo, this is bringing up this certain type of issue and this kind of issue and all that. But the thing that they don't like is identity politics. That's the thing that they're always hitting on, you know? Because I got it. Let me mention this. I saw this one video. This guy, he was talking about how he started watching an anime called Attack on Titan. And he goes, I'm loving this show. And he mentions that there's no politics in it. And I fucking laughed because that show is all about, I mean, it's not all about politics, but like it's heavy on its politics about about that world's government, how it's corrupted, how the classism has, how the classism is so far separated and everything. And then the big one is that there is a scene in the show. So, actually, no, I'm not going to explain actually because it needs a lot of context. But it's just that show. It really is. It's heavy on its politics about war, about identity, about classism, and so it's just like, how could you miss that? Like, what is it about this show that you like that you're clearly missing the point of it? And then I saw another video. This guy, he's going, I don't want identity politics in my TV shows. We're here to be entertained. And that gets me mad because what we argue is, is that we don't pay attention to plot that much. Like, people don't pay attention to the plot that much. They're just there to be entertained. When we say that, they're calling us idiots because, how could you not care about the plot? Like, don't you want a good story? I'm like, yeah, I want a good story, but either way, I want to be entertained in the end. So, like, how is it that when I say I want to be entertained, I'm an idiot, but you say that and it's like you're in the right or something? Yeah. And so it's just this hypocritical idea that they have. And I was gonna say something.
Well, one quick thing, just to clarify, plot to me is like the least interesting thing about, anything that I watch. And if for people who are like, because most people actually do care about like a fair deal about like what something is about. And I would just encourage you all to look up Guillermo del Toro. He has a wonderful quote. I think it was an interview he did with one of the London circuits for The Shape of Water. But when he said that the least interesting thing is plot, or actually, if you want to actually go back to our podcast feed, Peter and I did an episode on Del Toro. I think it must have been the last one. And we can get into that there about what it is that what that even means. But what you were saying, David, I think is perfectly right there. Mm-hmm. As whatever you're going to say, if it comes to you, let me just read some more off right here. Andres Cabrera A says he's known from the meaning of podcast. He used to be on the Schmoes Know Network. He says there will always be people who root for Americana-inspired heroes who showcase brutality. They think it's cool or badass and miss the point entirely. Well said. Alicia Grosso from Screen Rant, we've mentioned her a couple of times. She says, whole lot of people out there loving John Walker's actions and thinking he was right. Whole lot of people out there who definitely do not understand the assignment or subtext or simple text or literally anything the show is doing. There are far too many guys out there who think anything that depicts a man as a standard alpha in display of power equals badass, equals awesome, without having the capacity to understand a single bit of meaning beyond surface visuals. Jay Thomas says, I'm baffled that some can actually defend John Walker. Whatever Nico had been a part of before that moment was irrelevant. He was down. He was defeated. His hands were up and was surrendering in pure fear. There's no justification for what John did. And that's one thing, because I've been watching some people that pointed out, well, in his defense, he did kill his friend. Yeah, I don't know. Plenty of Steve's friends were killed and he didn't result to murder. And I also want to say, I wonder if for the same people who are defending John Walker for reacting the way that he did for his friend being killed, I wonder if these are the same people who are calling for Wanda Maximoff to be arrested for what she did to Westview. Because, of course, she did that because she lost everything and she lost the love of her life. But I'm not remembering those defenses in that situation. But evidently, there's plenty of defenses going around for John Walker. Mm-hmm. I wonder what the difference is there. Adam B. Very, the senior writer for Variety. It's interesting that in the same episode in which the new Captain America kills a man in broad daylight, the thing we're all apparently talking about is a black woman disarming a white guy. Interesting. yes, there have also been those people out there that were saying, why did the Dora Milaje beat up John Walker? Or what they really want to say is, how dare a group of black women beat up a white guy? Let's just be real. That's what they want to say, but they know they can't say it, so. Which is just weird. It's just weird. Stephen Ford, actor, he is not okay with what the Wakandans did. He says, okay, but the Wakandans putting a built-in weakness in Bucky's arm is like really messed up. It shows they never fully trusted him. He spent years trying to finally reclaim his autonomy, only to be undermined in an instant by those who helped. It's just sad. Someone responded, I think clapped back real hard by saying, the Wakandans put in a failsafe to ensure that their technology would never be used against them, something Tony Stark should have considered. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And one last thing. I have another take here by our own Peter Martinez. You may know him from Red Spotlight. He says, "This is America. They get excited at the thought of building walls to keep brown people out. I'm surprised it wasn't more people that like that scene." That's Peter. So yeah, David, I can tell you're pretty tired, and I am too, but it's always a discourse with this, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then if we thought that was it, there was one last thing I wanted to mention here. The show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even there was some conservative outlets that made such a big deal about episode 2, I want to say. It was episode 2, yeah. In the scene that featured the cops stopping Anthony Mackie's character, Sam Wilson. And they made such a hubbub about it that TYT, the progressive news network, mentioned this in their newscast. And this is what I read. Right-wingers are canceling Falcon and the Winter Soldier. How about that? I thought they didn't believe in cancel culture, but here we are. Because it featured a scene where a white cop almost arrested a black man for no reason. This is what the report said. Newsbusters, run by Conservative Media Research Center, claims in its headline that turned off viewers turn off the Falcon and the Winter Soldier after BLM propaganda. BLM standing for Black Lives Matter. They go on to state that, with no evidence, by the way, they pulled a number out of their ass. 83.49% of viewers tuned out at the same exact point in the episode.
That seems way too high a number.
It's because it's not real, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They literally provided no evidence. 80% of the audience, almost everybody was like, at the same moment, I'm gonna stop watching here.
Mm-hmm.
Really? And there's no data. We've talked about this. There's Para-Analytics, there's Nielsen, there's other, analytic firms who are trying to track ratings on streaming. The technology isn't where it's at to even know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a bunch of bullshit.
And if it was,
they go on.
If the number was real, I feel like we would have heard about it like a long time ago. Like, can you believe they lost 84% of their viewers?
Yeah. And then it gets even more outlandish when they say in this, what was it? A report from Conservative Media Research Center. According to a new rumor, literally they actually said rumor. According to a new rumor put out by, I'm not joking, by a YouTuber called Overlord DVD. This is who they cite. Overlord DVD. Not only did a massive number stop watching the episode at the same point across the board, there was a large-scale movement of viewers who unsubscribed from the streaming service shortly thereafter. What caused this mass exodus? It was the off-putting inclusion of BLM propaganda in a scene involving the two main characters and the police. These are the people who are constantly crying about, why are you talking about politics in my entertainment? Yet here they are trying to say that Black Lives Matter is bad and that's why they shouldn't have been included. I don't know. It seems like there may be an agenda here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is not this last story, not story, but this last thing I mentioned here for the audience listening. Do not take this seriously. No one did, and neither should you. This is the kind of shit they pull all the time. There's no evidence whatsoever to back up, and they sort people who are not really people. Overlord DVD, that's who you're citing? Okay. Yeah. I'm done. Anything else, David, that we should mention before we close out the episode?
Nah.
Yeah, I'm done with this. Thank you all so much for listening. As a reminder, you listen to our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, CastBox, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Google every single Sunday, sometimes on Thursdays. We do apologize for not having an episode out last Sunday. I was supposed to have one with Peter, but we had these really freak technical issues that I feel that we've resolved, so that shouldn't be in the way. So we will get to those stories that we were planning on talking about in regards to the box office, theaters closing, as well as new licensing deals, a whole bunch of stuff coming your way. So stay tuned, and don't miss me on the Fantasy Fair podcast. I'll be on with Alexis Moreno and Kyle Lira talking about the Disneyland Forward project, as well as other stuff that you won't want to miss. Stay right here under the spotlight, and we'll see you back next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.